Welcome back to the Week 4 college football betting locks and predictions, and let's get right into it after a very successful 12-4 week. So please be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications to see all of the betting locks going forward. Also, be sure to hit the link for the Discord as we gave out 12 plays after the video went out throughout last week, and a lot of them the lines moved, so it's good to be dialed into the Discord and keep an eye out for those plays as we pass them out. But getting into the first page, we predicted West Virginia to upset Pitt here. This line moved violently. It's opened at about 2.5, but then drifted all the way to Pitt -7. West Virginia ends up winning outright, so that was what we thought would happen. Just an ugly rivalry game there. Don't come out of it very high on either team there. Then South Florida, Miami, we ended a lock here. Miami -17 against South Florida, and they just end up winning in a rout. They were going on all cylinders in this one, and South Florida just had a really bad matchup on the offensive and defensive fronts there. Then this is another one where we talk about the good line movement. We gave this out on the video at +10 for Arkansas. Line plummeted like a rock throughout the week. Ole Miss wins by 5 and covers the game time spread, but we get the +10. Ole Miss was playing with their backup quarterback, and he actually looked pretty good. Arkansas just needs to be a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball there, but a good win for Ole Miss there, but a good cover from Arkansas. Vandy, we predicted them to win outright in this game at South Carolina, and they looked a lot better. We'll see how long this Sellers injury lasts here going forward, because that could be big for South Carolina's season going forward here. With the early loss, you never like to take that at home in SEC play, but Vanderbilt looking a lot better as a team here, and they do cover our 6 and win outright there. We added Northwestern bet against Oregon. I thought the Oregon power rating was a little inflated. That's what our numbers show. Oregon ends up winning easily by 20, but they didn't really have a death quest on this game like they did for that Oklahoma State game. So Northwestern hangs in there and covers. Utah at Wyoming, we thought Utah would win. Huge spread there. Thought about maybe a play later in the week, but decided against it. Utah wins that one easy there. Then EMU, Kentucky, Eastern Michigan stays within the 27 points there. That was just numbers play. Kentucky was a little overinflated. And then Duke at Tulane, we added Tulane -1, and they were able to cover that in that out-of-conference game there and beat Duke. So 6-0 page there on the betting locks. And then the next page, we had NC State, Wake Forest. This was on Friday. Wake Forest actually wins this one. Very impressed with their performance in that game. Then Georgia Tech's at Clemson. I thought Georgia Tech was the better team here coming into the week. I thought they would win outright. They do on a late field goal. Great game there. Clemson was kind of lucky to be as close as they were in this thing, realistically. Thought Georgia Tech played a great game on all fronts, and I didn't think they were getting very lucky to do it. I just thought Georgia Tech's the better team. I still think that. Brent Key has his guys going, and I'm excited to see what this Georgia Tech team does the rest of the way. The schedule's very workable. I can see them, again, getting 10 or 11 wins this season. Just if you take a look at that schedule. Oklahoma at Temple, we added a best bet, Temple +23, kind of a look-ahead spot for Oklahoma here playing Auburn this week. They do get it done in easy fashion and cover the numbers, so we were wrong there on that betting lock. Then Navy at Tulsa, we had Tulsa +14. They were unable to stay within the number there, even at home in American Conference play there. Georgia at Tennessee, we got this one at Tennessee +4 in the hook. I think it dropped a little more. They end up losing by 3 in a brutal overtime fashion. Georgia does not kick the extra point for those who had 3.5, of course. And Tennessee, realistically, just you have to make that field goal at the end of the game. Very impressed by both offenses in this game. The defense could use a little work. A lot of safety mishaps with the corners. Just great wide receiver play in this game all around, and some very impressive catches there in a high-scoring thriller. This was just a great game throughout. And I have positive takeaways from both teams. Obviously, you'd like to have that one if you're Tennessee, just given the losing streak that they've had and the fact that, it was on their fingertips with the field goal, but just a brutal way to go out in that one. And then USC at Purdue, we predicted USC to win. No play on the spread there. They do indeed win that one there. Final page, Florida at LSU, Florida +7. Our bet does not cover there with the 5 picks, penalties, everything going wrong for Florida. I do come away positive on their defense. LSU was not really able to run the ball very efficiently in this one. Obviously a tough environment, but the decision-making by Lagway is just not going to cut it with 5 picks. This was a brutal one for Florida. This is one you have to have, given the time of possession advantage and how good their defense looked. I mean, man, this is just brutal for Florida. You just can't have that many turnovers there. Our bet loses as they lose that 120-10. Texas A&M Notre Dame, great game here. Obviously, everyone will talk about the extra point, but realistically, this Notre Dame defense was just not good enough. Absolute thriller here on both sides. Marcel Reed and that Texas A&M wide receiver core is just great, and this offense is looking a lot better than my expectations originally for them. As for Notre Dame, 0-2, brutal start here. The schedule gets a little bit easier going forward, but their playoff chances, to say the least, are on life support. And I think there will be plenty of chaos around college football, but they essentially probably need to win out here, just given the up and down nature of this schedule. They've lost, two of the biggest games that they originally had on the schedule. Minnesota at Cal here, and Cal wins this one in a little bit of runaway fashion here, and we gave out the lock, of course, +2 in the hook last week, and of course they went outright. We thought they would win outright. Don't look now, but if you check that Cal schedule, there aren't really a lot of obvious losses on it, and it's still yet to be seen how good this Cal team actually is. Obviously 3-0 right now, but playing very varying levels of competition. They play San Diego State this week, so we're not going to figure it out, at least for now. The toughest game looks to be at Louisville or home against SMU. I mean, everything other than that, they stay away from Miami, Clemson, Georgia Tech. So everything else on this schedule, looks pretty easy. So keep an eye out for them in that ACC championship potential going forward here. That's a sneaker pick I haven't heard anyone talk about. We added a best bet on Delaware against UConn. They actually win outright as 10-point underdogs there. Arkansas State's able to stay within the 21 and a hook number as they somehow make Iowa State come to their place. Very confusing game, but we thought that they would cover. That spread was a little too inflated, and it was. Kent State nearly beats Buffalo here, and this is just a team that's been mismodeled, Kent State, all year. I think they've covered 3 times in a row, and we've had each and every game we've taken them because these numbers are just ridiculous. This time I think it was a little bit of both. Buffalo overrated, Kent State underrated. They easily stay within the number, lose by 3 there. Finally, Oregon State at Texas Tech. We were not able to capitalize on that one. Oregon State unable to cover the +24. And Texas Tech looks really strong so far in this season. So big game next week that we will talk about shortly. But once again, just a reminder, subscribe to the channel, share these videos with your friends just to give out the locks, spread the word. Up 11.8 units on the season so far. So very strong season. And let's continue it this week with the plays. The first game we'll be talking about, Iowa at Rutgers. A little bit of an interesting one here. Should be pretty ugly on the Friday night. I've got the Hawkeyes. They're narrow favorites. I don't expect the home field to be much here, but it's just brutal, this Iowa offense. But I think that they can just slow down Rutgers just enough, maybe even put together a defensive score. I mean, this is just the same Iowa team as always, and they've got to win in the ways they typically do in these brutal Big Ten games. I don't think Rutgers is that good, obviously, even at 3-0 so far. So I like Iowa to win in a low-scoring one there. UNLV at Miami, Ohio. We're going to take Miami, Ohio +3 in the hook here. UNLV obviously has played 3 games, beat UCLA close, was close with Idaho State. Maybe the most impressive performance at Sam Houston State, but it just hasn't looked great for UNLV. And then if you consider the fact that UCLA hasn't done anything special, obviously Idaho State is an FCS school. Sam Houston isn't that good either. And, UCLA is actually a really bad team. So I think this UNLV team is a little bit overpriced given the record here. Miami, Ohio should be able to stick within the 3.5 and win this one outright at home. I just think UNLV is a little bit overvalued from power rating perspective here. Then South Carolina at Missouri. We're going to take Missouri to win that one there. The spread is ballooned above 10 points. That might be too much, so we have nothing on the actual spread of the game, but I think Missouri is going to win that one there. Bo Pribula, who has been playing really good recently there. Auburn at Oklahoma, another betting lock. We haven't taken many favorites recently, but here we go. I think Mateer and the boys find a way to cover this one against Arnold and Auburn. Kind of a revenge game here. It's tough to play there, and I think Oklahoma's defense actually can step up to the plate in this one as well. Auburn's looked impressive so far, but this is not the same level of competition they went up against in Baylor. I think Oklahoma is a solid step above, and I think they win by more than a possession because I think Auburn can be had through the air. Mateer, I expect to have a great game attacking those Auburn corners in this one there. Tulane at Ole Miss. I mean, this is it. Tulane, impressive resume so far. This is the chance to really put the icing on the cake here. Not sure exactly who starts the game at Ole Miss here. I don't think there's actually a lot of difference either way you go here. But I do expect Ole Miss to win this one at home here, but, should be an interesting one and one that should be interesting to recap after it happens. Michigan at Nebraska. I like Nebraska here. They're rolling coming in. Obviously, 3-0. Michigan, the lone blunder at Oklahoma. Michigan bounced back in a big way this week, but this Michigan front is not as good as I would like. I think Nebraska can just outgain them. I expect this one to be a little bit on the higher scoring side. I like Nebraska to win outright. I think that they'll be able to run the ball well in this one, and that will open up the passing game, as I have not been impressed with this Michigan defensive front so far this season, despite the bounce back. We'll see if Underwood is allowed to throw it deep, if they try more deep passing plays. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see if Underwood is allowed to run. He looked great last week, but I think it'll take a lot to stop Nebraska here, and I think Nebraska might even have the edge outright on defense here. So I like Nebraska to win, especially at home here. Then UAB at Tennessee. Let's take UAB to cover the huge number here. I could see this one ticking down throughout the week. We will see Tennessee obviously exhausted after that Georgia game. Huge letdown. I expect Tennessee to win thoroughly, but maybe by something in the low to mid 30s and not this nearly 40 spread that we have right now. So just a numbers play on that one. I think Tennessee is a little overinflated here, and I like UAB to cover that one in what could be a sloppy second half over there at Tennessee. Then biggest game in the Big 12, I think, in the whole season here, Texas Tech at Utah. Utah's looked great. Maybe that UCLA beatdown has to be right-sized in terms of the significance there, just because of how bad UCLA's looked since then. But Utah's taken care of business all year. So has Texas Tech. I think Utah's got the edge here at home, but I think this will be a good game. Could see some action later in the week here, but I expect Utah to win this one at Rice-Eccles there. Arkansas, brutal travel spot for Green and Co. here at Memphis. They're favored by nearly a touchdown. That's too much for me, but I don't see significant value either way at the moment. I think Arkansas wins, but I think it's closer than it should be. And they're, wasting a lot of energy on an out-of-conference game here on the road, despite having, the brutal SEC schedule. But they are coming off a loss here. I expect a bounce-back performance from Green and this defense here, to be quite frank. Maryland, Wisconsin. I like Wisconsin to bounce back after they just got brutalized at Alabama. I've said this before, that I don't think many of these components on the Wisconsin team are very good at all. They just kind of got punked on the line of scrimmage last week against Bama. Obviously, Maryland, a big step down in competition. I like Wisconsin to win here at Camp Randall. Iron Skillet, SMU, TCU. It's been up and down for SMU so far. Obviously got off to the rough start at Missouri State, but it was kind of a double sandwich game with the look-ahead spot combined with the loss last week against Baylor. Led to a sluggish start on the road at Missouri State. Not really sure why they ever agreed to play that one. Huge game here at TCU. I don't think Jennings and co. have enough to take the top off this TCU defense, and the SMU defense has been lackluster so far. I think TCU wins this one. I think it's generally close, and I think it's high scoring, but I do expect TCU to win this rivalry game in a narrow fashion there. Then Florida at Miami. I think that this spread is too far over a touchdown. I think Florida hangs in here, and it's just the simple stuff they have to correct. Lagway's decision-making, these holding penalties are just brutal. And if they do that, I think Florida might have a chance to come out here and upset Miami outright, to be honest. This Florida defense has been solid. If they just keep the penalties at bay, then, I think they can kind of sneak in here at 1-2 and come into Miami and put up a good performance. Certainly leaning towards the cover there. So we will place the betting lock on it at +7 in the hook. And I think that Lagway and Florida can come out on top in a low-scoring fashion against this Carson Beck Miami offense. Illinois at Indiana, ranked matchup here. I've said before that I think Illinois is overrated here at 9 in the AP poll. Indiana's actually favored in this game, despite having the lower ranking. None of that matters, but I am going with Indiana here. I think they're a higher quality team by far here, and I expect this one to be easy for Indiana here. Not the best home field ever here for Indiana, but I do expect them to win that one there, but see what happens there. And then a couple number plays. Troy against Buffalo. I mentioned earlier I thought Buffalo's power rating is a little bit overinflated. We're going to take Troy to cover the 6 in the hook there. Arizona State at Baylor. This is kind of one, to keep an eye on in the Big 12. Loser kind of fades out of the picture, but both teams haven't played a conference game yet, so still the whole world in front of them. But I'm just not sure how good Arizona State actually is. Tough road spot for them. I think Leavitt, there's something wrong with him right now. It's hard to diagnose, and we'll see if he gets better, but something just looks off right now. I'll take Sawyer Robertson and Baylor to win that one next week. I think that, Baylor's defense is not very good at all, obviously, but I don't think Arizona State and Sam Levitt can take advantage. They've just looked off, especially in that Mississippi State game before. BYU at East Carolina, maybe expect some action on this later in the week. I like BYU to win, but maybe narrowly. They're favored by nearly a touchdown right now. We'll look for a better number. This is an interesting travel spot. I don't know why they would agree to this game. Just needless travel for the Big 12 team here, but I like BYU to win narrowly here, maybe below that nearly possession spread, but we'll see where that line moves. Northern Illinois, Mississippi State, I like NIU to cover here. Mississippi State, again, I think a lot of these plays just get baked in from the previous week. And obviously, it was a very impressive Mississippi State performance against a high school team, essentially. So I think this number is a little high. Mississippi State, eye off the ball, look-ahead game for SEC play coming up here. I like NIU to cover the 22.5. Cal at San Diego State, once again. Cal, keep an eye out because the schedule is pretty easy. They're going to San Diego State favored by nearly 2 touchdowns. I like Cal to win this one in the California showdown there. And then Michigan State at USC. USC finally ranked, climbing under the radar. Not the best performance at Purdue. Needed a defensive score to get things kick-started here, but USC, higher quality team here. Had a good defensive performance last week. We'll see how it is against an improved Michigan State team here, but I expect Maiava and the receiver core here for USC, Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon, to take care of what I view as a more lackluster Michigan State defense in this one at home. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and comment your predictions below.